The White Snake. At the king's table, a covered dish was placed every noon, and when everyone had left, the king ate alone from it, and no one in the whole kingdom knew what kind of food it was. One of the servants became curious about what could be in the dish, and when the king had once ordered him to remove the dish, he could no longer resist and took it to his chamber and uncovered it. And when he uncovered it, there was a white snake inside. As he looked at it, he also became tempted to eat it and cut off a piece and ate it. But as soon as the snake meat touched his lips, he understood animal language and heard what the birds outside the window were saying. The same day, one of the queen's most beautiful rings went missing, and suspicion fell on him. The king also said that if he did not catch the thief by tomorrow, he would be punished as if he were the one who stole it. The servant was sad and went down to the king's court. There the ducks were resting by the water, and as he looked at them, he heard one of them say, "I feel so heavy in my stomach. I swallowed a ring that the queen lost." He took the duck and brought it to the cook, saying, "Slaughter it, it is so fat." And when the cook cut off its head and gutted it, the queen's ring was found in its stomach. The servant brought it to the king, who was astonished and happy, and because he was sorry for having wronged him, he said, "Demand whatever you desire, and what position of honor you want in my court." However, the servant, though he was young and handsome, refused everything, was sad in his heart, and did not want to stay any longer. He only asked for a horse and money to wander in the world, and this was given to him in the best possible way. The next morning, he rode on and came to a pond where 3 fish were trapped in a pipe. They cried out that they would die if they didn't get back into the water soon. He got off his horse, took the fish out of the pipe, and carried them to the water. The fish thanked him and promised to repay him. He continued on his journey and soon heard an ant king shouting for him to take his large animal away, as it was crushing all the ants with its broad feet. He looked down and saw that his horse had stepped on an ant hill, so he redirected it. The ant king thanked him and promised to repay him. Then he entered a forest where the ravens had thrown their young out of the nest, claiming they were big enough to feed themselves. The young birds lay on the ground crying, starving and unable to fly. He got off his horse, took out his sword, and killed it. He threw it to the young birds, who ate and thanked him, promising to repay him. He continued his journey and arrived in a great city where it was announced that whoever wanted to marry the princess had to complete a task set by her. If they failed, they would lose their life. Many princes had already attempted this and died, so nobody dared to try anymore. The young man decided to try and offered himself as a suitor. He was taken out to sea where a ring was thrown into the water. He had to retrieve the ring, and if he failed, he would be thrown back into the water to drown. As he stood at the shore, the 3 fish he had saved earlier appeared, and the middle fish had a shell in its mouth containing the ring. The fish placed the shell at his feet, and he was able to retrieve the ring. He gave the ring to the king and asked for the princess's hand in marriage. The princess, however, refused because he wasn't a prince. She demanded that he collect 10 sacks of millet and not miss a single grain before the sun rose. The ant king and his ants came to his aid and gathered all the millet for him during the night, before the sun rose. The princess was astonished and impressed by his success. The princess then gave him a final challenge, to bring her an apple from the tree of life. He didn't know how to do it, but a raven he had fed earlier brought him the apple in its beak. He presented the apple to the princess, and she finally agreed to marry him. He became king after her father died.